Well, for more on those elections, I'm joined here in the studio by Nadia Massih from our International Affairs desk. Hi there, Nadia. Just tell us a bit more about the people who were targeted in that attack in Kandahar yesterday and their significance.
Yeah, this attack really struck at the heart of the leadership of the people of Kandahar. The provincial intelligence chief, Abdul Mumin, was killed. The governor and the regional army commander, both now fighting for their lives in hospital. The commander of NATO in the country, Scott Miller, he escaped unharmed, but by far the most significant person targeted and killed here was Abdul Razik. He's the area's police chief and also really one of the most influential people in Afghanistan, probably the most influential person in the south of the country. And so it's hard to really emphasize what a big win this is for the Taliban. They've tried to kill him reportedly some 20 times in the past. And so his death is going to leave a massive security vacuum in Kandahar province. And while he was the head of police there, he also had authority and influence stretching across Afghanistan. He was one of the biggest political and military leaders in the country and styling himself as the kind of anti-Taliban figurehead in Afghanistan. Now, it is worth pointing out that for the moment, the Taliban haven't provided any evidence that it was them who targeted him yesterday. But at this stage, it doesn't really matter. A day before those elections that we'll be seeing tomorrow, this is a major symbolic and strategic win for the Taliban. Symbolically, because he'd been targeted so many times, Abdul Razik had this kind of aura of invincibility. He was seen to be somebody that they simply couldn't get. And so killing him, therefore, a serious propaganda win for them. And strategically, because we've seen in Kandahar province in the past couple of months, they're making more and more progress towards the provincial capital there. And we imagine that having lost the chief of police there with that security vacuum, it will be easier for them to accelerate those advances towards the city. It is worth pointing out, though, that Abdul Razik is not a figure completely without controversy himself. He's been accused of having a pretty dodgy human rights record by international monitors, but the United States worked with him for a long time. They said he helped make Kandahar safer, and so there are real fears now that with him gone, security may well deteriorate pretty seriously.
OK, and we've heard that the vote in Kandahar is going to be suspended by a week. It looks as though those attacks are having an effect on the elections that were supposed to be held tomorrow.
Yes, that's right. As you mentioned, voting has already been postponed in Kandahar for a week, and that's something as well which can be seen as a clear propaganda win for the Taliban here. Now, the atmosphere today in Kandahar is described as very tense indeed. The Army Special Forces have been deployed in the streets there, and there are, I think, two big questions. One, will Kandahar in the coming week be able to safely hold elections there itself? And secondly, will tomorrow, when elections are held in the rest of the country, will they be able to be held safely without without more Taliban attacks tomorrow? Remember, these elections are seen as a key test of Ashraf Ghani's government ahead of presidential elections in Afghanistan next year. And this is the first election in the country since the NATO combat mission came to an end in 2014, which means the onus of security is almost entirely on Afghani forces here. And they've already been struggling. We've seen some 10 figures running for elections being killed, hundreds of Afghanis being killed as well. Now, those attacks have been expected. The Taliban, as well as the Islamic State group's affiliate in the country, both saying anybody who is campaigning for elections, indeed anybody who goes out to vote tomorrow, is a legitimate target in this election. But the United States, for one, is trying to be relatively measured in its response to that attack and its potential impact on the election tomorrow. We've heard from James Mattis, the US Defense Secretary. He said the Afghan security forces have matured in the past couple of years and they will be able to ensure this election takes place safely, even in the absence of Abdul Razik. Now, we'll have to see whether or not that confidence from the United States is borne out tomorrow in the election. But it may well be that even if security doesn't deteriorate very seriously, that this may simply deter people from wanting to go out and vote tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed, a terrifying environment in which to cast a ballot. Thank you very much indeed. France 24's Nadia Massih from our International Affairs desk.